Ronald Eglin.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Eglin, you've been charged with the second-degree felony offense of sexual assault. Your case is assigned to the 337th District Court. The judge there is Colleen Guido. When you get to court, are you asking the judge to appoint an attorney to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Would you like Ms. Brown to represent you at today's bail hearing, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Baer, may I hear state's position on bail in this charge, please?
Your Honor, the state is requesting a $75,000 bond. We are opposed to a PR bond being granted citing Article 17.03. The defendant in this case sexually assaulted the complaining witness by compelling her to submit and participate by use of physical force, violence, and coercion. We are requesting that you grant a magistrate's order for emergency protection. We are requesting that you order the bond conditions that are set forth in the motion filed by the state. Nothing further.
Thank you. Ms. Brown, may I hear defense position on bail, please?
Yes, Your Honor. This is Mr. Eglin. He's 61 years old, Your Honor, and he only has $200 available for bond. I would ask the court to set this bond at $10,000. Your Honor, he has been living in Houston his entire life. Specifically, he's been renting his current address for 17 years. He does have 2 adult children. He does have several physical issues, including he suffered 2 heart attacks this past year. Unfortunately, he suffers from high blood pressure and diabetes as well. Your Honor, he does live with his wife right now. He has been working part-time, but he's only been receiving roughly about $1,000 monthly. In regards to his educational level, he has some college. He is involved in his church as well, Your Honor. Lastly, he can get rides to and from court via friends and family. Your Honor, lastly, I'm asking the court to consider in this case a $10,000 bond based on the fact that Mr. Eglin has absolutely no criminal history. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. All right. And the court does note, as noted by defense, the defendant has no Harris County, no out-of-county, no out-of-state convictions, no criminal history that I can see, no holds, and a low public risk score of 1-1. And I do understand the defendant has health problems, which naturally that comes with its own costs, especially in America, and has potentially an unstable source of income, as he may be self-employed here. I'm not going to make a finding of indigency at this time. He does claim to be self-employed for the past 10 years, and once again, I have no salary. Again, we don't bring our financial affidavit to JPC with us, so I'm going to defer decisions as to indigency over to the trial court for additional consideration when and if additional information is provided. Although I will note, there is down to the dollar details about his living expenses. He just doesn't know how much money he makes. I recognize that the defendant has no criminal history and a low risk score. I also recognize the full context of the allegations here. To be specific, this offense involves one child that the defendant is alleged to have sexually assaulted. I say child because she's under 18. She's 17. She's a student because the defendant and his wife run a driving school. She was a student whose parents paid the defendant for the service of teaching their child to drive. During her first interaction with this defendant, the defendant is alleged to have rubbed her legs, held her down with his weight, penetrated her vagina with his fingers, forcibly raping the child, shown her sex videos of of not only other people engaging in sex, but what appeared to be the defendant engaging in sex with other girls. And the defendant is alleged to have admitted to engaging in similar interactions with other teenagers, referring to someone that the complainant knew and saying he liked her better because she could keep her mouth shut. Now, in addition to allegedly running this driving school, he's alleged to be a high school teacher and, as noted, is active in a church wearing a church-related shirt And there is potentially access to victims in those situations as well. And that's evidenced by the fact that there are multiple prior offense reports and complaints about this defendant assaulting other teenagers between the ages of 15 and 19 in the same way. There have been offenses such as sexual performance by a child, indecent gesture, investigation of a sex offense, improper relationship between educator and student, and harassment that have been filed. And he approaches all these victims through his role of a driving school instructor or as an HISD staff member. So my big concern is here that the defendant is a serial rapist and has access to additional victims through a carefully designed career that would allow that access. And God only knows how long it's been going on. Wow, some of these reports go back to 2018. So, and that's just the reports, that's just the ones we know about. We know there's a substantial percentage of sexual assault victims who don't report. I am going to order as conditions of bail, Mr. Eglin, that you may have no contact or communication with state's witness JM. Those initials stand for Jayla Morris. You may have no contact with JM or any member of their family or household. While your case is pending. And this is a prohibition, a proscription on you initiating contact with them. You may not go within 200 feet of any address where JM lives, works, or goes to school. I don't care where that is. And I do recognize that the defendant likely has access to the complainant's personal information because you fill that kind of stuff out when you apply for services at almost any business. You may not leave Harris County or any of its contiguous counties without permission from your trial court. You may not use, possess, or consume any illegal or controlled substances. You may not use or possess any